All right, welcome to another Pro Football Doc Sports Injury Central podcast. End of week 14, one game still to go, and we can cover that. Week 15 is here then, no more buys, stretch run, 4 more games for everybody. And we got Jacob here, Taylor here, just in the background somewhere. Here, sort of. But this is the cat's away and the mice will play. No office today. I mean, look, I'm out of town and trying to phone it in. You guys are like, did you guys even go to the war room yesterday since I wasn't there?
Oh, we were definitely there.
Right? I thought you needed a picture. I heard you needed a picture at 9:30 a.m. sharp yesterday to make sure we were all there.
Oh yeah, that wased for the public or Twitter. That was just to make sure you guys were there. I was counting bodies there.
Checking in with a PO. Yeah.
No, New York was a great time with the family, and I can't promise there won't be a cameo from the wife or the kids in the hotel room. We're still here heading back home. But Sunday was kind of a bust for me. It's difficult. Luxuries of having the command center, right? And video and rewind and audio where you want, immediate feedback. I mean, because I was trying to see a lot of games. I went to a bar, really, a restaurant to watch. And the best one ended up being Yard House with the different screens. But I didn't realize the local bars that all advertise sports bar don't automatically have Sunday ticket.
Nope.
And when you have the Jets and Giants playing at the 1 p.m. slot, I mean, basically
that's
every
other
game is Jets, Giants. That's it. That's all they showed. And then wandered into a bar that was a Ravens bar, so it was just Ravens, and another one that was just Vikings, and Homer bars. And so missed some action, but you guys did good sending me video. I know there was a lot of stuff going on. I know Dr. Spear was there and others and so forth. So good job. You put out a lot of content on the day. I didn't. I skipped some halftime chats, and they're just too loud. You couldn't hear, but I tried to make up for it. I did a little more at the end with some special guests.
Yeah, well, I know it was on Saturday, I think, but I was impressed of you answering questions while skating on the ice rink with the family.
I'm just that skillful, on skates.
Almost needed a 6 score, right? Very close.
I need a camera to turn my wife and the eye roll I got for the athlete part. Look, I didn't fall. Well, I fell one time because I was skating with Devin, and she fell, and I could have saved it, but then there was like a 10% chance I would fall on her if I didn't save it. So I decided to just fall away from her. And, it's actually hard to get up on skates when you're not used to it.
It's very hard.
So, look, most important thing is the kids were alive, and that meant I'm alive too. If the kids were injured, I might be dead.
Yep.
Yeah, that's key.
I got nods in there in the background there as my wife is folding clothes.
Yeah, extremely busy week for injuries, Doc. It seemed like big name after big name, even though there was just the 7 games in the morning, 3 in the afternoon. Obviously, 6 teams on bye, so we'll get to some of the key names, but no more skipping weeks, Doc. It's too busy.
Hear that, Kim?
In my defense, I said we could fly home on Saturday. You're the one that said.
There's the truth.
There it is.
I know that till right now, Kim.
The truth of the matter is.
I said we could go earlier in the week on like Tuesday or Monday and come home on Saturday.
Yeah, but I actually had it worked out where I thought I would be. Pat Kerwin was nice enough to say, "Oh yeah, come along." We've been talking about that for a while at the CBS headquarters to watch, all the games, and it'd be quiet and the whole deal and chat. You still wouldn't have the video, but then I guess CBS still doesn't allow visitors. They're being extra cautious with the COVID policy. So, I was like, Pat, come on, you can pull strings. He goes, look, my wife hasn't been able to come. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm out. So I was left to go bar hunting for games. But the family was good. You guys are happy. They went to the Lion King when the games are going on. I got a nod, thumbs up.
Yeah, making the most of it. All right, Deebo Samuel, that's the big name everyone's worried about. We had something initially saying we didn't think it was a season-ending knee injury, and ends up being ankle. So it's kind of one of those combo MCL high ankle.
It's it's another lesson that I always say is don't judge the reaction, right? I mean, he grabbed at his knee, and at that point, I think I was at the yard house at a place where I could plug in and do stuff, and I could see all the Twitter mentions and stuff saying, "Oh my God, he tore his ACL. What do you think? He tore his ACL. This season over, he tore his ACL." I'm very confident that it wasn't an ACL tear. Looked like a mild MCL, if anything, the way that he twisted. And he certainly grabbed at his knee, but then he ended up being ruled out for his ankle. We saw the ankle trap, but it's a classic combination: high ankle sprain and MCL, mild knee sprain. He might have been able to come back from the knee, but the ankle, not so much. But because the way his foot was, and we got pretty good video there, not worried about an associated fracture, not worried about one where he might need surgery, but he's going to miss some time, right? I mean, Kyle Shanahan's always been pretty honest, and after the game, he did say no fracture, and he said likely high ankle sprain. And I don't think he's hedging. I just, he wants to wait for the MRI. I think he's being honest. There's no way he's playing on Thursday against Seattle. And the question is, the good news is for 49er fans, Jacob, his season is not over. His regular season might be over, but not the season as in playoffs. I think the question of when he comes back is, can he make it back for the last game of the regular season? Will they even need him to, right? I mean, depending on what happens. So I would say the line is first playoff game at the end of the regular season. That's the line, hopefully he can for sure come back for the first playoff game, depending on when and where that is. And but the rest of the regular season, he may not. And I saw an interesting tweet from Jerry Rice talking about criticizing the head coach for running all these players up the middle, from Trey Lance to Jimmy G to Deebo Samuel and getting them hurt. I thought that was interesting.
I feel like that always comes up every time they use Deebo in a different way and he gets hurt. They blame it on him being used in a different way, but he's got, if that would mean that he can't get hurt ever, but he's utilized so much, so that means injuries are going to come, and he's such a physical player. So I don't know if Jerry's right on that, but I mean, they do run a certain way, right? And they do run up the middle very well, and they have a good run scheme, so that's how they play. But I don't think it's the coach's fault that that's happening.
Yeah, and I mean, and if this game were played somewhere else, people would be blaming the turf, right? I mean, there's always
correct. Yeah, no, you're right. They always find something, I think. Yeah.
It's look, I'll say, football is not a contact sport. Basketball is a contact sport. Football is a collision sport.
Right.
Well, that's why Deebo wanted to get paid. They paid him as a combo player, so Shanahan can use him however he wants. Another interesting one. I mean, you make a good point. We are in the zone that it might be shut down for the regular season if the record is not favorable for the team, or get a guy back for playoffs. Another interesting one yesterday was Russell Wilson doing pretty well against the Chiefs, leading that comeback. Then he has that scramble, hits his head on the turf, and camera shows him in coming to after the concussion. That was pretty rough.
I told you my theory on that in the command center. They only do that to quarterbacks I feel like the media doesn't like. Remember when they did to Aaron Rodgers too, when he was stuck on the turf? I feel like they would never have done that to Tom Brady, right? They never would have done it to quarterback. That's my thing. I said that many times in the command center yesterday. Why would they zoom in on his face like that? Even from a personal standpoint, I think that's not right. He's going through it, right? But
well, to be fair to the networks, you are the star player.
Correct.
And to be fair, post Tua, they're trying to get the right shots, right? And make sure that this is not a back injury, whatever. And I did find it interesting during the Sunday Night Football game. And my guess is the NBC crew will get a phone call from the league. I forget it was Tirico or Collinsworth said, "Look at Tua, he's finally running again after his 2 concussions."
I heard that. I did hear that. Yep.
The Dolphins have never admitted to that. The NFL has never admitted to that. So my guess is there's a post-game phone call to those guys. What are you doing? Just my guess.
I did catch that.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Okay. But it's true. He hasn't been running, but is it scheme? Is it other things? But Russell Wilson, the only thing I will say is that egg on his forehead, it's not a fractured skull. It actually has nothing to do with the concussion. Of course, it has something to do with the hit and on the ground, the way the helmet rubbed or hit, and broke a blood vessel, and it swells up very quickly. The back of your hand, it can swell up and look grotesque very quickly because of the skin and the way the little skin lining is. It's not a fractured skull. That egg has nothing to do with his return or not return next week. That looks kind of scary, but not that big a deal, so to speak. And he obviously didn't return, and we'll see. It'll be interesting. Ravens, they may be down to their third with Huntley, ankle/concussion, and the other one was
Lamar
Pickett.
Yeah,
with a concussion.
Ton of QB concussions yesterday.
I mean,
Tyler
how many picks
Saturday,
did Trubisky throw?
3
in a little more than a half.
Look, you just do 2 and maybe we still get that game.
Yeah.
That's true.
Like, what are you doing?
I don't even want to break down the betting slate of yesterday. We were way too close on every single one, but it's one of those weeks.
One of those weeks. It's a big matchup for the Ravens, division opponent, the Browns. Deshaun Watson playing a little better, 2 weeks under his belt instead of just the one. So who we're going to see at quarterback for the Ravens? Is Lamar going to get pushed into action?
I don't think he can be. I saw the Schefter report that he's looking at that Christmas game. And that's what we said, right? That's a good case scenario, the Christmas game. That's not a guarantee. Christmas, I guess Christmas Eve. But that's all been confirmed. PCL, the whole thing, etc.
Mike White left with the ribs too after those two rough hits, but came back after both. Any concerns about him this week? Why did he go to the hospital?
He went to the hospital because it's a road game, and if he had any trouble breathing, which he may have after the numbing medicine wears off, does he have a small pneumothorax or lung collapse, small puncture? Regular X-rays, hard to detect them. They probably went and did a quick CT scan to make sure he didn't have any air leak in his lungs so that he could fly home. And that's my guess.
The Jordan Poyer.
What's that?
The Jordan Poyer.
The Jordan Poyer, sort of, yeah. So where you don't want to fly with any air leak because of pressurization. Really, I think nowadays the way cabins are, it's more theoretical. I mean, but no one wants to mess around with that in the air.
Right.
Even though it's a charter, you can land the plane anywhere. You have team doctors with you, and the whole deal. It's it's just a theoretical risk that you typically do not take. One time we had someone with a partially collapsed lung documented, and in Kansas City, and had to go to the hospital and stayed overnight. Actually, a couple nights. One of the athletic trainers stayed behind. Had a chest tube inserted to reinflate the lung, and in order to be safest, because that's a long drive home, he didn't want to drive.
Right.
And believe it or not, it was my suggestion, and we talked the Kansas City doctors into agreeing that, like, he's traveling with a medical professional. Instead of pulling, the norm is to pull the chest tube, wait a couple days, and then fly. That's if you're regular Joe or you drive. He didn't want to do that, but we want him back in town. So our suggestion was, what if we take the suction off the chest tube? That's what you normally do, and you clamp it, and if the lung stays inflated, he's relatively safe to go. After a day of that, you pull the chest tube. But we said, instead of pulling the chest tube, can we just leave it in and just fly with it clamped? So it's like steel than normal. And they're like, what? Fly with a chest tube? I mean, you're not flying on a medical aircraft, but you're flying with somebody. And what's the worst case scenario? If his lung starts to collapse again, what do? You hook it up to suction. You land the plane, and you're saving a second chest tube. And so we actually did get him home early that way. But that's the worry about it. And the one thing about being in New York that was fun is we got to the later afternoon games and evening games, during the day, I tried not to meet up with anybody because too much going on, but I should have because it was not. But it was fun chatting a bunch with Jay Fiedler and about quarterbacking and other things. And we were talking about different things during the game. And, and that's one of the discussion points. Why did Mike White go to the hospital? We talked about different concussion things. And I don't think I'm saying anything that he wouldn't say. But he's like, yeah, I mean, he said, look, if the current concussion protocols were in place, he would have been yanked out of several games, including his best comeback game of his career. He told a story about how one of his wide receivers helped him up, and he was a little groggy. And after he helped him up, he started to wave to the sideline, and he said, don't you ever do that. And he stayed in the game, I mean, so hopefully, Jay, I'm not revealing any secrets there. I mean, I think he's a pretty candid guy and so forth. But I guess he's doing all the Jet stuff at night, so he comes into the city for that.
Another quarterback injury that just got released, Brock Purdy. So he's going to have an MRI today on an injured oblique he suffered. They said they're not really too concerned because he played after it and he played well. But there is a quick turnaround. Yeah. On Thursday night is the only issue.
That's true.
MRI on his oblique? I mean,
you're the doctor. I'm just reading what he says.
Well, I shouldn't say that. One time through an agent, we got an MRI on ribs once. I mean, you realize that you have to sit still in like 3 to 5 minute increments to get an accurate MRI. Who can stop breathing for 3 to 5 minutes? I mean the MRI quality is what it is. It's an oblique. Look, hopefully it's not one that he now needs surgery for, Trevor Siemian. That one I still don't understand, I'll be honest with you. I'm not saying anything's untoward or anything's not right, but I'm just saying I don't understand it, which I always say if we don't understand it on the outside, that means we just don't know all the facts. But I don't see how this oblique is going to bother him that much. Short turnaround's interesting. But I did win a friendly wager with Jay Fiedler. I said, because I already kind of knew that. So when 17 got put in the game, we didn't have sound on, and I was like, oh, who's that? Josh Johnson. And I said, over under 17 teams that he's been on.
You tested on us already, so that's a good one.
Yeah. And I had to count him 20. He goes, yeah, but does that mean he was just signed, or did he play a game? I was like, oh, don't get me on technicalities.
Yeah,
he was like, 99. He was like laughing because he's like more than Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm like, oh yeah, more. But I did get him and met up with Ariel Epstein. That was nice. I'd never actually met her in person before. Yeah. She answered one of the tweets or something about where to go and whatever. And so, come join after. She went to the MetLife game, and then we were chatting, and I did stump both of them on this question. I said, where did Josh Johnson go to college?
Yeah.
USD.
Taylor knows on, yeah.
And then University of San Diego. And then I followed with name the most famous person involved with the USD football program or a head coach of USD.
John Harbaugh.
Obviously, Jim Harbaugh.
Jim Harbaugh, yeah.
And Jim Harbaugh went from there to Stanford to San Francisco to Michigan. He became head coach at USD after his San Diego Chargers.
How much money did you come back with all these wagers you did?
Well, Jay picked up the bar tab, but
there you go.
I really wasn't drinking, so it wasn't much of a tab.
I want to get your take on a couple Bengals injuries. Interesting week for them. Trey Hendrickson, one of the league's top pass rushers, played the fourth quarter with a broken wrist. We saw the play where it happened. He kind of went in for a punch and got his teammate's helmet or shoulder pad, whatever it was, and then he just played on third downs from then on with it wrapped. So I thought that was pretty tough of him. I know he's a tough character with all the stingers he's had in the past.
Well, that one, I don't know that I saw the video yet. Maybe you guys sent it. I didn't, with confusion. But if just by that right there, if you're saying it happened on a punch and he came back to play with a wrap, this is not an unstable distal radius fracture that needs surgery. Mm-hmm. It's either a hairline fracture there or it's a fractured scaphoid, which is that small, I guess you could call it the Fernando Tatis bone. And is there a fracture there? how bad is it? If it is a fracture there, do not be surprised that he gets surgery, because surgery is a better way to ensure healing, early healing, and to play through. I don't expect Hendrickson to miss much time, even if he needs surgery for that scaphoid. Maybe a week for the wound, and then play in a thumb spica cast. He's a D lineman.
I was gonna say, is there a spike or is there a club that they use, or it's just a cast to keep the
cast
stable?
The reason why it becomes a club is you're required to have a certain amount of foam padding on it, so you don't use it as a weapon. And I don't know if they've changed the rules. In our time, some referees were more, oh, you got to put more foam on it. You got to put more foam on it. And then it becomes a bigger thing. And we're like, okay. And some were like, okay, you're good with it. I say, without that much, but they do warn you, like, if you start using it as a weapon, I'm going to disqualify you or tell you need to put 3 inches of foam on it, right? But they let it go pretty slim. That's the way it worked. And look, even in high school football, you're not allowed to play with a cast, not because of you and your injury, of what you might do to others. So, so I used to tell players, if you don't want, some referees are okay with it once they feel in the high school level that you have enough padding on it that you can't use it as a weapon. Some are sticklers to the rules, cast and you can't play. So I said, well, bulky dressing, you can't call it. You call it a cast, sometimes you're going to get ruled out.
Right.
Other one from that game, on his first target, Tyler Boyd suffered a dislocated finger on his right hand. Didn't come back to the game, but they said no fractures, so they're saying just a week or two for the dislocated finger.
Was it finger or thumb? I saw 2 different reports. It seemed more finger to me, but it was just video on cell phone,
Why would he miss a game compared to Josh Jacobs? Is because he's a wide receiver?
Well, do they say which finger? I mean, honestly, you're more likely to miss time if it's a thumb than if it's a finger. So I'm not sure if it's finger or thumb. Fingers pretty routinely all the time. That happens. Oh, since you went Josh Jacobs, Mr. Raiders.
Yes, sorry. Not sorry. Yeah.
Did you see the Chargers quarterback on that key fumble?
Yes, he was all about his team and helping out. I know.
That's all I'm saying.
Oh, I know.
And it's pretty precarious the way he dug in there, right? Here's Corey Linsley, doesn't even know anything, and he's still blocking. He's making no effort to get the ball. We don't need to go there. I'm just pointing that out.
That's not where I thought you were going when you brought up the Raiders this week, Doc. I thought you were going Baker, but you know not to poke that bear with Taylor.
Yeah.
T. Higgins was another interesting one. They said during warm-ups.
That was an interesting thing that he said with about that. I talked to Jay about what he thought about Baker Mayfield, Brock Purdy, and different things, and he said, look, Purdy looks pretty good, but he definitely agreed that as people get film on you and whatever, you need. Like baseball, right? You need more pitches. The first couple times through the order, that AAA guy can strike you out or throw some good stuff because they're talented too. But over time, you need to show other things. You can't be a one-pitch guy, one-trick pony, so to speak. Not saying that Brock Purdy is, but he said he looked good. And I asked him, I said, well, what about Baker Mayfield? I mean, that's unbelievable to me. Oh, we talked about Deshaun Watson. I said, it's going to take him some time. I mean, they did better this week, but they said, Taylor, your team total under 20.5 was pretty easy, right? What was their final there? I don't even know what they got, the Browns offensively.
Yeah, 20 to 17.
Yeah.
Oh, they ended up getting
10 points. Yeah. I mean, he hadn't played quarterback in 2 years. How do you just add water? I mean, look at Russell Wilson. He changed teams, new scheme, didn't play in the preseason, and has struggled though a good part of the year. And Jay agreed with that. But the other thing that we said was that I said, well, explain Baker Mayfield. I mean, how did he? And he was like, yeah, I mean, they obviously struggled the first 3 quarters, but he said that's Baker. He's and this is a good point. He's a playground guy. Let's just go and play. And he's got that factor. He's not a system, I need my third read and I'm going to do the right. He's a playground guy. And so a playground guy is like, holy shit, press coverage.
Yeah.
10 seconds left.
He's like, let's go.
Yeah. Right. I mean, that was up his wheelhouse. So that was an interesting perspective there.
Yeah. They played Monday, so they got 10 days off. I kind of wonder if that's going to help him or hurt him, all that extra time to think and try to learn a playbook in 10 days. So
if you look at his history, he is one of these, guys that makes things happen as opposed to robot system, right? That's what makes Baker Baker.
The thing to tell him is that he needs some motivation, I think, and that if you're right in Stafford not getting the surgery means this might done for his career, then Baker maybe is starting to play well because this is his job now. And if McVay personally wanted him to be on this team for some reason, he obviously picked him for something, and he's listening to his play calls, whatever. There's no way he learned the system in 2 days. I don't care.
There's no way Sean McVay gave him the entire playbook in 2 days. I mean, okay. And if he did or could, I don't care if his IQ is 250. You can't absorb
way.
Exactly. Figure it out that quick. Yeah. Or you really have a very simple offense, right? They gave him the basic keys to what happened and what to do. And
they said Stafford was in his ear too. They said Stafford was on the headset relaying stuff to him, coaching through.
And that's the other thing. Yeah. I know we've been on the record saying that this is career threatening for Stafford, and he likely needs neck surgery if he wants to continue to play football. And McVay saying he's not heard of any necessary surgery. Is he saying that he's not heard of any necessary surgery because Stafford isn't coming back? Or is he saying he's not needing any necessary surgery because the doctors have not said you have to do it, but leaving out the football part? Or is there something different about his spinal cord contusion where he doesn't need it? I find that unusual, but we'll still let that play out in terms of what's happening there. We'll let it all play out if that this signing Baker was a tell on Stafford hanging it up, because you got to say at this point that move looks good, right? And could they, if Stafford were to retire, and I would imagine he's going to sit down with his family and wife after the season and make a nice decision one way or another, Baker might be better than they can get anywhere else. I don't know what the free agency market's going to be, but they don't have a draft pick. I mean, high enough.
I wanted to go back to what Jacob said about T. Higgins. His situation was odd. So he had a hamstring injury going into the game, no injury status. In warm-ups, Zach Taylor said they lost him. So obviously he re-aggravated it, pulled it, whatever. And then he had one snap because he snuck out onto the field on the third snap of the game. What do you make of that?
You pulled the Jameis Winston, just show up in your jersey, run on the field, and they'll pull you off.
They did make goal line packages for him, but the one snap he had was not by design. No.
Did they throw to him?
No.
Well, they said, "What the heck are you doing out there? Get over here."
Well, yeah. Well, look, because he's on the active roster, he is technically available and legal to play. And so there's nothing stopping anyone from doing that. But now the question that I would have is, how did he pull this off? Did he just not tell anyone and run out there? Or did he tap his backup and saying, I'm taking this one? And the backup goes, okay, what's he going to say, right? Or was this in conjunction with his wide receiver coach or some other decision? But one of the things I will tell you, it's organized chaos on the sidelines of an NFL game. It's organized, but it is chaos. I mean, there is a lot going on in any one moment. You cannot expect Zach Taylor to be looking at the play sheets call and everything else, thinking about down distance timing and big picture things to say, oh, who just ran onto the field and why? So I wouldn't blame any of that. I mean, stuff like that can happen, which is why whenever there was a concussion issue or head injury issue, what would medical staff always do first? You'd take their helmet.
Mm-hmm.
Then they can't just circumvent you. This is back in the day before you had to escort them off the sideline.
Right.
You would take their helmet, right? And then what are they going to do? Then I guess you could borrow someone else's and run onto the field. I don't know. Nowadays, you can't be on the sidelines.
That's to save them from themselves. So that'll be interesting to see his status going forward. Couple pass rushers with calf injuries. Big one is Quinnen Williams for the Jets. Vita Vea is the other one for the Bucks. So any chance that either of them shake that off back this week?
Well, we've talked about how Vita Vea has not been himself this year. We've talked about the weight. Now I see the chatter. I remember the first time I saw him this year, I was like, wow, he's a lot bigger. Look, calves are hard for D linemen, not only for get off in terms of the rush, but also to anchor. I mean, sometimes their job is to take on two offensive linemen and occupy them and anchor without getting pushed back. Eat bodies. Hard to anchor if your calf is bothering you. So I think that's a problem for Quinnen Williams and Vita Vea.
Quinnen's been a big part of that defense this year too. He has 10-digit sacks from the D-line position. Jets defense has been awesome this year, obviously. Something that just came through the newswire too is a right tackle for the Cowboys out for the season with a torn ACL. Terrence Steele happened last week. Told you a lot of stuff happened when you were gone, Doc.
Well, yeah, I mean, and we're earlier this week on the podcast, so we'll see what new news comes up. But Terrence Steele, we knew MCL, right, and hopefully not ACL, but obviously that's not the case. Wonder what they're going to do there. I mean,
Smith is back at practice. Obviously, he's not going to come back yet. Maybe they force him.
They've been saying he looks good. Michael Galkin has been saying he looks good there. And the original plan was to put him back at left and slide Tyler Smith in to guard. I don't know if Tyler is capable of flipping to the other side. I don't know. I don't know what they're
not the greatest at right. They're going to have to put someone there. I know they have Jason Peters, who has the ability to play right tackle as well. But I mean, his age and something, I don't know what they want there. But the backups were already bad at that position. Remember, they let Lau Collins go this season. So it's going to be an issue already, right? Already was this year. So they'll keep trucking and figure out what they have to do at the right tackle position.
Yeah, they went thrilled with Josh Ball coming in to replace him. So that was a close game against the Texans. That was a little bit of a shock. But for the Texans, Dameon Pierce suffered a left ankle injury late in that one. Came back for 1 carry, 2 yards, and then didn't see any goal line work. And they said he couldn't push off on that ankle. So that's a big one for fantasy playoffs and all that stuff.
Well, before we get to Houston, back to T. Higgins sneaking in for a play. Think back to University of Michigan, Blake Corum. Okay, he didn't sneak in for a play, but prior to the Ohio State game, we said he's not playing, and there were some people who said, "Well, you're wrong. He suited up and he played." Yeah, 2 snaps for 6 yards, couldn't do it. The reason why you can do that in college, in the NFL, he would have been inactive,
right?
Because you need the roster spots. In college, you can suit up 100 guys as long as you're academically eligible and enrolled in the university. You can suit him up on the sideline and enter him into a game. I mean, there's no roster limitations in college like that, like the NFL, where it's at 46 and the 45.
What is Corum doing? Is he just sitting on the sidelines chatting with the coaches, trying to get those 2 rushes in? Or because obviously they have to give him them and the coaches have to sign off. I don't think he snuck on, like you said, like Higgins. So
I don't know the details. If you're a running backs coach, wouldn't you say, okay, let's see what you can do?
He was a Heisman. Yeah, he's their Heisman guy. Of course they would do it. And he's a senior, right? He's not playing. So you give him some snaps.
Yeah. But so back onto the Texan game. That's one where, okay, I didn't think he'd come down to the wire like that, but 17.5 was just too much. I mean, look, they should have beat Cleveland last week, except for the 2 defensive touchdowns and the special teams touchdown. I mean, this is the NFL. There's no question Houston's at the bottom, but it's not like, you've got Alabama playing. All right, I'll say it. San Diego State.
Okay. Do it. Help yourself.
I mean, it's not that. I mean, it's any given Sunday, anyone can beat anybody, right?
It's
and there are better and worse teams, but it's not, the differential is not the same.
Is it this week, though? Because they're playing Kansas City this week, and they might not have Damon Pierce. So is it Alabama versus San Diego State this week?
No, because what would the line be, Alabama versus San Diego State?
Definitely
35.
over.
What's that?
35.
35? Might be 45. I mean,
I was taking 10 points off for bias,
yeah. You know what I mean? So, I mean, maybe, but it's still the NFL, right? And so that's all. But Dameon Pierce, we'll look at some of that video. It doesn't look like it's serious, right? From what I saw, it's more of an inversion, I think. But obviously,
yeah, he never went to the locker room. He was walking around on the sideline, just got a tape. So
cutting and push off, it can affect him, no question.
Right. Interesting one in the afternoon games too was that Seahawks running back situation. There's news that Tony Jones Jr. was going to start over Travis Homer, and then he ended up getting one carry the whole game. So a little bit of rope it up there from maybe Pete Carroll, but Travis Homer just had 9 rushes for 20 yards, and they got a short week. Any chance we see Ken Walker back?
At best, maybe. I don't think, I wouldn't look, if he's on your fantasy team, you better make a contingency plan.
Remember, this is a Thursday game, guys, too. So it is a
Thursday game. I forgot.
Yeah, that's right.
Even more unlikely. I mean, yes. I would put him in the doubtful category.
It's unfortunate.
That's what I wanted to hear, Doc. Sorry.
They've been flailing without that run game, right? No, they have no Penny all year. Walker was a resurgent. Now it's just they're relying on Geno Smith, and it looks like they've been getting exposed the last 4 or 5 games.
Well, that's the thing. There's very few people or teams that can really be one-dimensional and win. You have to have some balance, and without the balance, it's very difficult. I think a good example of where the Dolphins struggled last night was Terron Armstead playing. Terron Armstead played, and to be honest, it surprised me that he would return that quickly from the pec strain. But if you watched him and you watched his sets and the way that he just always kicked out to over, because he couldn't protect out here with the outside arm, so he would shift his body over and he got burned inside. I mean, he became more one-dimensional, saying, okay, I know you can beat me to the outside, so I got to get there. And then he started giving up the inside. All things started to break down. It's the NFL, and everyone's good at what they do. And if you don't have the balance, you don't have what's going on, it's a fine line between success and failure.
For sure.
Yeah, obviously Terron Armstead is a big part of the team. It's kind of interesting. Is the left tackle more important for Tua, the only lefty quarterback in the league, or is it the right tackle? But we saw the effects of both last night.
He doesn't have either one right now. They're both
that's kind of the issue there, right? Yeah.
Tyreek Hill's ankle, I think we're still going back on video on that, but he obviously continued and had that deep touchdown. It seemed to be bothering the whole game, kind of nagging on him.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see any video on it. Don't think it's significant. He's going to play through. He's still fast as all get out. It's just how much cutting can he do? I would imagine this week limited, maybe a DMP limited in practice, playing again next week. If he's on your fantasy team, you have to roster him. Period. End of discussion.
Talk about playground.
You still in it, Taylor?
Oh, I am. You set me up now. I have it here. I finished 162 out of 1,000 people, so I will definitely be going to the next round. I had a pretty big week this week, and I'll have Justin
Mills let him.
So I mean, representing our site very
Justin
well.
Fields back. Tony Pollard getting a bunch of touchdowns. Justin Jefferson, you're set up well.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yes. Lost Jeff Wilson last night, though. Speaking of him, what do you think about his hip injury, Doc?
The only video I saw, obviously the video I saw was all related to the Tyreek Hill replay,
Right.
But I mean, this does not seem like it's a Jamar Chase. This does not seem severe. So I don't know what words they had after the game, but I don't see it being severe. And you have Mostert there, so it's kind of a 1A, 1B. If you're talking about Miami injuries, I'm still most worried about Teron Armstead, number one.
Okay.
Number two, maybe is Jeff Wilson Jr. only because he didn't return. Number three is Tyreek Hill in terms of those guys.
It could be like a hip pointer or something like that. Because remember, Fournette had that earlier this year. He missed a game.
The video I saw was only from the sideline. There was no end zone copy, and it was quite honestly more based on Tyreek Hill, right? I mean, the Jeff Wilson part was the throw in, but when he fumbled, he got folded up a little bit. Didn't see anything terrible or significant. The question is, if they didn't have Mostert, would he have returned? Maybe.
Yeah. One that came through just now too, Lane Johnson left the game with the abdomen injury in that blowout over the Giants, but he's considered day-to-day. They don't think it's a serious injury. We actually didn't have video on that game because they switched to the Cowboys on the Sunday ticket feed, so we didn't have the fourth quarter of that game on TV.
Really?
Yeah. They've been doing that last couple of weeks on some of the games.
Really?
It was like 35-14 or something like that. But yeah, it doesn't help for injury coverage when they do that on us.
Well, the thing with that abdomen is it a strained abdomen muscle? Is it oblique, or is it a core muscle injury? They all can be called the abdomen. They're on a run. I don't see how Lane Johnson's not going to finish the season. It's just how much rest he gets and in between. Yeah.
Yeah, tough division, so maybe not much opportunity for rest either. So that'll be interesting to see.
I don't know. What are they? What's their record now?
They are 12-1, so they clinch playoffs. But Dallas is right behind them, 10-3.
And they beat Dallas the first time.
I believe so.
I know they beat Dallas the first time.
Yeah, because Cooper Rush. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no Dak. Yeah.
So they still have a little cushion.
Jalen Hurts is minus 140 for MVP right now, too.
Jeez. I thought he couldn't throw, Taylor.
I know. I didn't think so either. Doc doesn't think so either.
Oh, that's not true. I think he can throw. Is he the traditional pocket quarterback that goes 3 and 4 reads deep? No, it doesn't seem to be.
It's becoming that, though. He's one of the best pocket passers in the league now, which is what I'm surprised at. He's developing. So,
yeah, there's no question.
Yeah,
the guy's an MVP candidate. He's at MVP caliber. I'm not doubting him, but does he have the same kind of Does he have the same kind of pocket success if he doesn't have that run game?
No. And
that's all.
The elite O-line helps too.
The elite O-line helps, but the other, look, you know me, I'm a little bit of a, I guess when it comes to some of this stuff and young guys, I've always been a little bit of slow to adopt or get off my lawn, if you want to say it. I think the only quarterback who, look, when the Kansas City Chiefs decided to let Alex Smith go, I was like, what are you doing? And literally 2 games in, I said, holy F, they really knew what they were doing. Mm-hmm. It took me 2 games, and I said, that 15, he is special. Right. Hurts has been great, but, I mean, is he complete yet is my question. And in other words, can he win without a run game if the run game is hurt? Or can he chase if they're down a couple scores in the fourth quarter? It's just a question. Maybe the answer is yes. He hasn't had to. That's all.
I'll say you might not get that answer this season because he hasn't had a
might not. I mean, look, it's okay, right? I mean, so I'm not hating on him. I just,
looking at some matchups for next week, 2 of our lower 6 scores of the season are going to get lower with Ravens losing Tyler Huntley and Lamar maybe not back against the Browns on Saturday. And then Broncos going against the Cardinals, probably with Brett Rippon at quarterback. So,
yeah, well, we'll get to Cardinals a little bit, though. I mean, the Cardinals tonight, their offensive line is in shambles.
Been a mess for the last couple of games, yeah.
Yeah, against the Patriots, who have a good defense. So we haven't done all the algorithm on that yet, but my guess is it's going to say Patriots and under, right? Just a guess. But You got to plug in all the numbers and what have you first.
Well, Patriots will not have Jacoby Myers, who's their top wide receiver, right? So obviously that screams you're under as well. Damon Harris, I believe that Damon Harris is out as well. So yeah, the algorithm does say so.
There you go.
See, as we get into these next couple of weeks, shutdown season begin, and we'll see how much hiding behind health storylines we get. We haven't had a ton lately, although Sam Darnold's looked pretty good for the Panthers.
And they're in the playoff contention now, which is insane.
That division shouldn't count. That's the Bucs keep slipping, and somehow the Panthers are there, somehow the Falcons are there, somehow the Saints are there.
Lions in playoff contention.
Yes.
Lions are good. They missing some pieces on defense, but still getting the job done against Minnesota. Obviously, Justin Jefferson had the great game, but Lions and Dan Campbell, big matchup against the Jets this week. So no Quinnen Williams is going to help the Lions.
Yep.
What do we have for Beast of the Week? I think you mentioned something on your Twitter.
I have my one thing.
Yeah.
You got anything, Taylor? You guys? I got mine.
I like yours.
I'm gonna give it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it to Brock Purdy. And look, not only were you like in diapers when Tom Brady first started in the NFL, your first start ever, and I didn't have volume, but you could see they kept showing his dad, and his dad was emotional, and he did very well. I mean, look, he survived the second time through the order and did very well. We'll see what happens going forward. But I saw some video, and it's on my Twitter timeline. Maybe Jessica can put it up. After the game, some media were saying that Kyle Shanahan sat down to talk to Brock Purdy at his locker. I mean, the guy's a beast. The guy just beat Tom Brady. I mean, he's Mr. Irrelevant to Mr. Most Relevant. 49ers have not skipped a beat. They're other than the Eagles, they're right up there in the NFC, right, for the Super Bowl. Can you get the guy a locker that's more permanent? You have him stuck in the corner, like as an afterthought. Now, this was a home game too, right? It was in San Francisco. It's not like, on the road and whatever. This is his permanent locker for home games. It's in the corner by himself, and he's next to Dre Greenlaw and Hufanga. Can he get with his own guys? Can he get with the O-linemen? Can he get with the offense?
Do they usually move them mid-season?
What's that?
Do they usually move a technically third-string quarterback's locker mid-season? Have you ever, that's a lot of work.
Did he request it?
Look, maybe it's Brock Purdy that says, no, this is my locker. I'm fine. I don't want to move. Okay? Maybe he's that kind of guy. But as a team, usually locker rooms are set up where the offensive linemen are together, and then the quarterbacks and the offense is together, the defense is together. He's off in the corner, and I think his nameplate is even a different color if you look closely, like it hadn't even been put up there. He was with the inactives and practice squad guys, and who they didn't really have own lockers, so they got him a locker. But can we put him where make some room? Nothing against Trey Lance. He's not coming back. You want to move his over there?
Greenlaw might be his best friend. We don't know, Doc.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't want to leave him.
Maybe, but I was just that was my takeaway. You're a beast. You're fine being stuck in the corner and etc. But he's doing well and leading the 49ers
for sure.
I got mine's a mix of Trey Hendrickson coming back with that wrist fracture, and then Trevor Lawrence had a heck of a week after missing practice time and came back through for 368. That
was one of our best ones, right? You're take Jacksonville. And the other one I put up there is Mike White, taking those rib shots and coming back.
He doesn't want to lose his job.
For fun's sake, I'm going to say Brock Purdy. Well, I don't think Mike White's losing his job. Zach Wilson wasn't even active, and Joe Flacco
didn't look great.
Yeah, didn't do a lot when he got a little appearance. All right, well, thanks for watching and listening. Pro Football Doc Podcast, Sports Injury Central, and there'll be more stuff out. Good job, guys, this week. Lots of different content, and my one war room absence of the year.
You're allowed one, Doc. It's all right.
Yeah.
And but like you said, we got a team of people and other people, so you guys did well, and the other docs, etc. So thank you guys for that. The family thanks you, and we'll catch you next week. But go to sicscore.com for all the latest updates and news as they come, especially since this podcast was a little bit early this week. Get ready for the flight home. All right, thanks for watching.